Clemson Hotline is on the air, a one-hour talk show giving Clemson fans a power hour of Tiger sports talk. Clemson Hotline is presented by y'all.com and brought to you by Amtrak and DirecTV. Clemson Hotline is broadcast on a network of radio stations across the great state of South Carolina, and a podcast edition of our show is available for download in iTunes. Hello, champions. Hello, Tiger fans. Feels good, doesn't it? You can pound your chest a little bit. I'm not saying that there are people out there that maybe don't wear their Tiger gear proudly, but it sure does make it a little bit easier to throw on that orange gear when you head out with a big victory in the Chick-fil-a Bowl over a very talented LSU team. Give both teams credit. It was a fantastic game, but at the end, yours humbly was wrong. I gave you a close one, and I gave you an LSU win because I said I used my head. But I told you my heart was feeling a completely different thing. Lesson learned. Lesson learned here. The host shall from this point forward go with his heart over his mind. We've got a whole lot to talk about here with you. Some recruiting. We're going to talk some basketball. But most importantly, we're going to reflect on a monumental win, or at least a potential monumental win for your Clemson Tigers. Stay with us through the break, Clemson Tiger fans.
At TurboTax, we know your paycheck is more than a number.
It's being there for my customers.
It's lending a hand at any hour.
And it's having my coworkers' backs day or night.
You work hard to earn your money, and we're here to help you keep more of it. TurboTax has experts available to answer your questions by phone or live chat, so you get the answers you need and every penny you deserve. TurboTax, the power to keep what's yours. Try it free at TurboTax.com. Live tax help service is subject to availability, restrictions, and change without notice. See TurboTax.com for details.
G-Dog General Dentistry at Oak Grove is located on Highway 1 near the Barnyard Flea Market. Modern, relaxing dentistry with TVs and headphones in every room, nitrous and even oral sedation. Digital diagnostic x-rays for better quality and 85% less radiation exposure. And check out their new Clemson Patient Special. Mention that you heard about G-Dog here on the Clemson Sports Talk programs and receive an extra 5% off all services through football season. If you don't have a regular dentist, go see my dentist, Dr. Rick Jackson at G-Dog. That's General Dentistry at Oak Grove.
This is a referral service. Calls will be routed to an independent referral insurance agency.
Do you know the number one cause of bankruptcy? No, it's not losing your job or running up credit card debt. It's not even divorce. It's medical costs. If you and your family don't have health insurance, just one serious illness or accident could be financially devastating. But now there's good news, really good news. A health insurance hotline has been established to provide health insurance for all Americans, even uninsured Americans with pre-existing conditions. Now anyone can get health insurance even if you have a pre-existing medical condition. I repeat, now anyone can get health insurance coverage. Call now for a free no-obligation quote on affordable health plans available to you. Again, this is a free hotline for anyone, even if you have pre-existing conditions. Protect you and your family from sudden unexpected medical costs. Call the free health insurance hotline right now at 1-800-838-5562. That's 1-800-838-5562. Call 1-800-838-5562.
Are you a landowner who owns more than 10 acres that's interested in selling timber or pulpwood off your property? Cross Creek Timber is a full-service timber procurement company that buys standing saw timber and pulpwood. They're staffed with professional licensed foresters and fully insured with both workers' comp and general liability insurance. Let Cross Creek Timber develop the appropriate harvesting plan for your property and answer any questions regarding forest management. Call today, 864-517-3620. That's 864-517-3620 for your free woodland evaluation, or visit www.crosscreektimber.com.
And now the number one reason to get Genie from DirecTV, the most advanced HD DVR ever. It serves your entire home with one HD DVR. Call now and get a free upgrade to Genie. Packages start at $29.99 a month.
Call 800-399-5101. Now get 47 channels of HBO Stars Cinemax free for 3 months. That's 800-399-5101.
DirecTV or an RVU-enabled TV device required for each additional room. Additional and advanced receiver fees apply. Offer requires 24-month agreement and qualifying package. $29.99 package not eligible. Offer ends 2/6/13. New approved customers only. Lease required. Other conditions apply. Call for details.
On Saturday morning, I don't sleep late. I eat an early breakfast and I head out for the gate. I gotta get there early to watch the Tigers play. The dogs are in town, we'll blow them away. I've got my orange t-shirt, got my orange hat, even orange underwear. Now what you think of that? I'm an orange fan.
Welcome back into the program, Clemson Tiger fans, and I want to tell you, one of our sponsors there, Cross Creek Timber, and Steve Smith, what a great guy he is. He's been a supporter from the get-go for our program, and he recently sent me a beautiful Christmas card, but inside there was a business card, double-sided, and if you notice during the break, if you're watching the show live on Spreecast, I put it up there, Cross Creek Realty as well, professional real estate brokers. You can get in touch with Steve Smith for all your timber procurement needs or real estate needs, so pretty neat stuff there. I want to get the word out about their expanding business. But let's get to the business at hand. We've got a whole lot of ways for you to take part in the program. If you're familiar with the show, it's pretty simple. Hashtag TNTalk, all one word on Twitter, comes right to us. In the chat room, we've got a lot of folks in there already. Corey, Chris, Craig, Paul, Clemson Tom, some guests whose names remain anonymous. You can email us, clemson81@gmail.com. Some people like to T-mail me right there on TigerNet. They drop me a T-mail every once in a while. We're going to get to a T-mail at some point during the show. And don't forget, Sunday nights at 9, Wednesday nights at 9, that's when we do the programs. I like to say, if the Baptists are going to church, we're talking about Clemson Tiger Sports a little later in that evening. So if you go to church early, finish off your Sunday and Wednesday nights with us right here live. We do thank you for stopping by. What a win. A monumental win. I think you got to put it in the annals as one of the greatest wins in Clemson Tiger football history. 25-24 over an LSU team that many people would say have been a national title contender, and it's a fact for the past few seasons. That's how good they are. We went through before the game just the few losses that they had. And Les Miles, he's a gambler. He's a kind of wild and crazy guy, and it ended up happening to him in this game, and he will probably hate the fact that he passed on consecutive downs late in the game when needing only 2 yards to perhaps seal the deal. But it was Clemson's resilience throughout that impressed me the most. And a possible top 10 finish for your Clemson Tigers looms. And there were a couple of moments in this game where, as a Clemson fan, you had to have some angst. Even the most diehard and faithful fan had to feel for a moment that it wasn't going to go our way. Second play of the game. The key thing we told you coming into this ball game against LSU was that Clemson was going to try to get the ball to Sammy Watkins. Chad Morris had realized what had happened against South Carolina, that Watkins didn't get enough touches, and no matter what, if we had to go back to running him with the football like we did against FSU, we were going to do it. Second play of the game, Watkins out, fumble. Recovered by LSU. 2 plays later, punched you right in the face. LSU for the touchdown, and a squeamish look on many fans' faces in the crowd. And you can't blame the Clemson fans for feeling that way. It was pretty obvious that things were going the way LSU wanted them to. But how about Clemson bouncing back? And on that second drive of the game, the second time they had the football, moving right down the field against a vaunted LSU defense to tie the score at 7, and what that meant perhaps for the confidence for this ball club the rest of the game. Not to mention that on LSU's first legitimate drive, all of a sudden, the Clemson Tiger defense just electrifies Atlanta. It was unbelievable. The play of Malachi Goodman throughout this ball game, if he had played at that standard the entire season, and let's be fair here, because when we get to the basketball segment of this program, we're going to talk a little bit about Milton Jennings, the often criticized McDonald's All-American. And probably criticized because he deserves a lot of the criticism, even though he's a young man. He deserves a lot of the criticism because there are many mistakes that have happened. But Malachi Goodman, maybe not with the exact same expectations coming out of high school, but a kid who people thought would be a fantastic defensive end, never played with that drive and intensity that we saw Monday night in Atlanta. We had not seen that type of effort out of him. It reminded me, those of you that have seen the movie The Blind Side of Michael Orr, and how he was never an aggressive player. And Malachi Goodman is a very nice guy. He's a stand-up individual, but he never played with that drive and that high motor that I think he needed to be as successful as he was against LSU. Now, you could say LSU did have some injuries on their line, but Malachi Goodman, in my mind, if he had played like that the entire season, you're talking about a completely different scenario maybe in games against FSU and South Carolina, just by having one guy who is causing disruptions for the opposing offense. We've got so much to get to. Questions already in the chat room. Chris notes that I should always go with my heart. You're right, Chris. I apologize that I went with my head. Most people would say, Swanee, given the two choices, using your heart's probably the better one. And then Clemson Tom says, do you think the win elevated the program to an SEC level? Hashtag Coot Logic. I know this is one thing that win did, though. You could talk about the South Carolina Gamecock fans and the ribbing that they've been able to give Clemson fans for 4 straight seasons now. One thing that win did was I think it made people reevaluate the victory that South Carolina had against Clemson in Death Valley and realize that, you know what, in the end, like we told you here, if South Carolina doesn't punch that ball into the end zone, if it's a 6-point game and Clemson has the ball, it's still anybody's game. It doesn't matter who's playing for them at that point, because Clemson's offense showed you in Atlanta that they can go head-to-head against the best defense in America, or one of the best defenses in America, and a long-standing defense, too. That's the other thing. It's not like LSU just rolled out of bed this season and said, oh, we're going to be good for once. They've been good a long, long time. And it had to feel good going into that Clemson locker room after the game, realizing that you went through not just the early woes, but even some of the stuff that happened later in the game that really could have spelled doom for Clemson. But it was resilience that won this game for your Tigers, and it was fantastic to see. Stay with us. We'll be back.
Having the game of his life as Clemson has come up with sack number 6. Third and 11, pressure coming. Ford makes the catch. Hats off to Taj Boyd. Boyd, touchdown. DeAndre Hopkins on a bullet. A 2-point conversion would tie it.
This Clemson defense looking for their 8th 3-and-out in the game.
Mettenberger has hit only 5 of his last 13 throws, and he wants to throw again. Has it batted down. Holy cow, Malachi Goodman. Fourth and 16. Here comes the pressure on the blitz. Down the middle for Hopkins. He makes the catch for 40. They'll throw the slant inside the 20 to the 17-yard line. Now, Clemson has the upper hand. Still number one, so here we are the champions. We've come so far, they said it can't be done. Catanzaro for the win. Got it!
That's right. We are the champions. A little longer than usual there on the intro to the second segment of the program, but I think it was well worth the time to listen to that and just think back. I mean, you know, when you realize that down the road, as big as that 2003 win perhaps was against Tennessee, as big as the 1981 National Championship game was, this one for me comes in right there behind it. Number 2 because of the exposure that we got, the fact that the SEC has been blown up in so many ways. And look, I told you after what happened that final weekend of the season, you wouldn't hear me come on the program and say that the SEC wasn't any good, that these weren't good ball clubs. Look, that was a very good ball club. Florida may not be the most offensively gifted team, and we saw something maybe that the LSU doesn't want to admit, and that is that a good offense can spell trouble for even some of the best defenses out there. And when the SEC doesn't have maybe the most explosive quarterbacks, maybe not even the best dual threat quarterbacks out there, you saw what Johnny Manziel at Texas A&M was able to do in season number 1 playing against the vaunted SEC West. I'm just saying that when you have playmakers, look at Russell Wilson in the NFL, for crying out loud. I mean, look at what he's been able to do with Seattle, and you realize that dual threat guys, there was a play in the ball game today. Russell Wilson got out in front and led Marshawn Lynch to the end zone, just sprinted past him like Marshawn Lynch wasn't even the running back. It was crazy, but dual threat quarterbacks cause a lot of havoc, and it's one reason that Taj Boyd was more successful this season, I think, against maybe some of those ball clubs who don't have the exact level of talent that Clemson does, the teams that we can maybe out-talent a little bit. I think you saw Taj Boyd be able to take advantage of that in the running game. It didn't happen often against LSU, but what Taj Boyd did to get up each and every time he was hit, to stand in the pocket like a man and throw the football, throw laser beams throughout this game, and put balls in windows like none other. The 4th and 16 throw, it will go down with the catch. It will go down as one of the greatest plays that Clemson Tiger fans will remember. And the only other games I could really lump in there to this one, I mean, you could say beating a third-ranked FSU team at home had something to do with maybe the way Clemson's programs evolved throughout the years. But the Oklahoma win, the Penn State win, those were big. I'm putting this one ahead of those. This is number 2 in my lifetime. I think this is number 2. This was definitely the most exciting victory I've ever been a part of and seen. The electricity of that moment was unreal. It was unreal. Corey wants to know, is there any word on Sammy Watkins' injury? Corey, I haven't heard anything. I don't think, though, that it's that bad. I'll be honest with you. I don't think it's anything that we should worry about, especially considering the offseason. And Matt Tiger states the obvious, that I've got swag. Thank you, Matt. And you all have a little bit of swag for coming in to the program. You get, I guess it's a level of swag. You get a little of my swag for being here with us live on Spreecast Sunday nights. The first half couldn't have started worse. The second half started horribly. A long kickoff return for LSU, and then 57 yards to the house. You're scratching your head again. You're thinking, this cannot be happening. All of a sudden, you're way behind, and realizing that you're going to need a 2-point conversion because of a blocked extra point to tie the ball game up. First 2 possessions of the second half yield minus 2 yards for Clemson. And on the third possession, Andre Ellington coughs up the football, which rarely happens. But somehow, that defense came back again, fighting. First and goal at the 9 for LSU, and the defense stood up, held them to a field goal, and LSU led 24-13 with 4:49 remaining in the third quarter. And from that point forward, it was almost a Clemson Tiger takeover. Clemson thoroughly dominated. Their first drive of the fourth quarter was 12 plays, right down the field again, much like that second drive of the game in the first half. Just an outstanding set of play calls by Chad Morris. Clemson cuts the lead to 24-16 with a field goal. I can't tell you how many times in this game I thought for sure we had heard the last of Malachi Goodman. But there he was again in the fourth quarter. Big sack on third down with 7:09 remaining. Clemson gets the ball back, drives it down the field. Facing a 3rd and 4, though, the oddest call of the game, one of the more odd calls of the game, was a delay of game on the defense for LSU. That gave Clemson a first down on a 3rd and 4. That was huge. The next play, Clemson runs a hook and lateral, swings the field. A couple of plays later, DeAndre Hopkins, who had a monster game. DeAndre Hopkins, let me tell you, this game probably, we kind of gone back and forth about what's going to happen with DeAndre Hopkins. This game probably put him over the top. This probably put him into the NFL draft. 13 catches, 191 yards, 2 touchdowns. He was so solid that he's gotten so good that in some ways, when Sammy Watkins is not involved, you almost forget that you're missing anybody. He steps up and fills both positions quite well. So then you have the debacle, I guess, if you're an LSU fan, of the 4th and 2, 3rd and 2, 2nd and 2, 3rd and 2, and then, of course, Clemson getting the ball. That was a huge surprise, I think, for everybody. The 4th and 16 play, after a missed pass interference, 1:22 left, Clemson has the ball at the 14-yard line, and they find a way to drive it down, and the Catman delivers. And it was a thing of beauty. He knew he made it when he put his foot into it. And on that last drive, 6 times, I believe it was, LSU players were dropping like flies. They were worn out. The pace that Clemson's offense put them through, 100 plays in that game, they were absolutely worn slap out. And it was impressive because the Clemson guys still look fresh in so many ways. And again, going back to it, Tyus Boyd hit time after time after time. Great stuff. And you could talk about conditioning and you could talk about fitness and strength. But clearly at the end of that game, the conditioning of the Clemson Tigers came forward. And it was the biggest difference as we went right down the field. And maybe they were trying to slow the pace. I think that's an argument that a lot of people had during the game. But if you got a chance to go back and watch it, it looked like some legitimate injuries there. And if you saw Sam Montgomery from the state of South Carolina, from Greenwood, having to be carried off of the field, you know that it probably really had to do with the fact that these guys were gassed, that they haven't seen an offense like this with that kind of pace. And you wonder, going back to last season, I know LSU beat Oregon early on in the year, but the argument was being made right there at the end of the year, would it be Oregon or Alabama who played for the national title? Had it been Oregon who got a second shot at LSU? I'm just saying, they get the plays. Maybe you have a non-SEC champion last year, but we'll never know because of the fantastic BCS. We'll be back.
That train keeps a rolling on down to San Antone.
Ladies, are any of these symptoms familiar? Weight gain, hot flashes, rapid heartbeat, night sweats? How about fatigue, nausea, low energy? Or what about sleeplessness, low libido, and fat storage, especially around the belly area? If you're a woman over 40 experiencing any of these symptoms, you probably have hormonal imbalance. And until you balance your hormones, it'll be practically impossible to get rid of these problems. But you're in luck because Amberen is the all-natural formula clinically shown to cause sustained weight loss in women over 40 with no big change in lifestyle. Amberen restores hormonal imbalance in women over 40, so the extra pounds fall away and the other symptoms simply disappear. To receive a complimentary risk-free trial with a free 30-day supply, just be one of the first 50 callers right now at 1-800-510-3558. Free supplies are limited, so be one of the first callers right now at 1-800-510-3558. That's 1-800-510-3558.
Are you a landowner who owns more than 10 acres that's interested in selling timber or pulpwood off your property? Cross Creek Timber is a full-service timber procurement company that buys standing saw timber and pulpwood. They're staffed with professional licensed foresters and fully insured with both workers' comp and general liability insurance. Let Cross Creek Timber develop the appropriate harvesting plan for your property and answer any questions regarding forest management. Call today, 864-517-3622. 3620. That's 864-517-3620 for your free woodland evaluation, or visit www.crosscreektimber.com.
Hey, sports fans, listen up. If you're a fan of the Gamecocks, the Citadel Bulldogs, or you just simply get chills from the Tigers running down the hill, then CRM Sports has a weekly show just for you. Even if Cocky and the Tiger make your blood boil, then just tune in for a good laugh. Each week, Gamecock fans hear the CRM Sports show Carolina Crowline broadcasting live from downtown Columbia. And Clemson fans enjoy the Clemson Hotline broadcasting live just miles away from their beloved Death Valley. It's fun, independent, objective, and informative talk about your favorite college team. To listen to the various CRM Sports Collegiate Sports Talk podcasts, visit iTunes and search for CRM Sports, and the action-packed shows will be just a free click away. CRM Sports. Check them out on iTunes and get all the inside info on your favorite Southern team. CRM Sports. We know Southern sports.
Think where you live means you have to settle for a slow online experience? You don't. That's why we're introducing Exceed from Viasat. Exceed Broadband brings together the highest capacity satellite in the world, state-of-the-art ground equipment, and breakthrough technology to bring you super fast speeds. Think what you could do with that. Watch streaming videos, TV shows, and movies with less buffering, share photos faster, enjoy video chats with less jitter, and send and receive files all much faster. Call Exceed Broadband at 800-397-4999 and you get 3 data plans to choose from, all with the same amazingly fast speed. New feature is Late Night Free Zone. Exclusive to Exceed. Customers can download as many movie shows that they want during overnight hours, and it does not count towards their monthly usage. Call now for special offer 800-397-4999. We think it's time you get the online experience you deserve. Think fast. Think Exceed Broadband. 800-397-4999. Dial 800-397-4999 now. That's 800-397-4999. Again, 800-397-4999. Exceed Broadband. Now that's fast. Call 800-397-4999.
Hate the thought of shopping? All that hassle and can't find what you're looking for anyway? We understand. Retail stores make it difficult. Instead, try www.edistooutdoors.com. Edisto Outdoors features performance apparel and gear engineered for performance, comfort, and style. EdistoOutdoors.com. You'll enjoy the shopping and you'll enjoy the products. Great products from people who care.
Remember all the stories growing up as a kid about Refrigerator Perry and just how hard he hit. And my mama told me homecoming games are the best on the banks of those late fall, late cartwheel sunsets. I wanted to be just like Jeff Davis when
Welcome back into Clemson Hotline. I'm your host, Lawton Swan. Glad to have you with us. I did see that CU Tailgater was having a little trouble getting into the program, so I am going to tweet to him. I'm not sure if he got in yet or not, but I'm going to fire away. It's kind of hard sometimes to pick up on who's with us and who's not, so I'm going to put it out there. Hopefully he get it. No, I see Tommy in here. Tommy's with us. Okay, you got in, Tommy. Good. I hope you're able to see us. If not, some people would tell you that's a good thing when you can't see me here on the program. Seems to make it a better show if you don't see this face. Some people like it when there was only an audio version. Hashtag TN Talk on Twitter. Clemson81@gmail.com is the way you get to us. And our good friend Kevin out in Fort Lewis, Washington, sent us this. He says, if you had to pick what you would call the catch on that 4th and 16 to honor and recognize it, he says he would go with the Nuke Year's Eve catch. The Nuke Year's Eve catch. It's not bad. I've seen people calling it the snatch. I've seen people calling it the grab. The catch part 2 has sort of already been taken by what Carolina fans like to call the push-off. It was an unbelievable play. He says, was there a single great amazing play from Monday night that was big enough to go down in Clemson history, such as the catch? Or what about the player's overall performance or an entire drive? Could one of those receive recognition? That last drive, that 4th and 16 was the play. That was clearly the play. You can't deny just the timing that goes into that throw. And I don't know if if LSU's cornerback Reed made a mistake by not turning his head. I think it's a tough call there. I mean, the space that Taj Boyd is fitting that ball into was unbelievable. And for Hopkins to be able to get down and low enough to make the grab, the snatch, whatever you want to call it, doesn't bother me. I can tell you this. It will be remembered, as we talked about earlier. And Kevin, as always, thank you for emailing us. Look, there was so much that was good in this game. And in regards to recruiting, this could be huge. You already had a guy like Ebenezer Okendeko, or Ebo for short, out of New York, the number one player in the state of New York, commit. He's already on campus. He's his family is Nigerian. His mother's at least Nigerian. I think he was born in America. He's a defensive end. I'm thinking, come on. I'm still leaning, come on, Robert Kimdichie. The Nigerian Nightmares, come on. Let's wreak some havoc on the ACC for at least 3 seasons. I don't think Kimdichie's sticking around for 4 no matter where he goes. But when you look at the development of wide receivers, and you see the issue going on right now between Clemson and Florida for DeMarcus Robinson, and Notre Dame now a little bit in the mix. But most people feeling right now that he's leaning towards Clemson, DeMarcus Robinson. And I've got to imagine that after you see what happened to Florida against Louisville, and the fact that wide receivers go to Florida to block, basically, and you can come to Clemson and make a name for yourself. And DeMarcus Robinson is a fantastic player. I will never be the guy who, because a player flips or flops to another school, that tells you, oh, well, he's no good anymore. These guys are legitimate ball players. And DeMarcus Robinson would fit this system well. And Clemson right now, according to multiple sources, has a slight lead on DeMarcus Robinson. And I think if you're sitting at home, if you're DeMarcus and you're listening to our program and you're saying, what do I want to do? You come to Clemson, and I'm guaranteeing you Jeff Scott and Dabo Swinney and Chad Morris are going to make you into an outstanding wide receiver. You're already good, son, but the wide receiver development at Clemson, taking DeAndre Hopkins and turning him into what he is leaving Clemson, and a lot of that's the God-given talent that these players have. Sammy Watkins, he stepped in and against Florida State said, hey, Coach Morris, this is what I'm seeing, and this is what we can do. I mean, there's clearly a ton of talent that these guys already have. Just natural ability coming in. But you've got to recognize, you've got to at least acknowledge Adam Humphries. Look at Adam Humphries. I really believe Adam Humphries is a prime example for those people out there who want to know what Clemson has been able to do as far as developing wide receivers. Humphries, when he came in, for most people, was just an afterthought. Was just another guy to go out there. Another body to put on the field. But when Sammy Watkins has gone down, Humphries has played well. He is sure-handed 9 times out of 10 in the punt return game. And the coaches clearly trust him. You've got Martavis Bryant, Sharon Peake. You can see the future still looking good, minus a Nuke Hopkins. But if you're DeMarcus Robinson and you're sitting at home and you want to know where you need to be playing football, if you want to be showcased as a wide receiver in college football, it's not at Notre Dame and it's not at Florida. And that has to be the only selling point that Clemson gives him. And that should be enough to get him at Clemson University. Now, we also had speaking of recruiting, I should say, we also had a message come in late, just about an hour and a half before the show kicked off, from MS Tiger 02 on TigerNet.com. He said, hey, man, it might be a little late for the show, but here's a great article about the one player that puts you over the top. The highlighted Jeff Davis quote is telling, and it's an article that was written in the Post and Courier talking about how good the defensive line was for Clemson during the days of Refrigerator Perry, back when Clemson was not only one of the best teams in America, but the best team in America. And in fact, if you gave me Bill Walsh college football right now, if you could go get it, you go pull Bill Walsh off the shelf, you bring your Sega Genesis, you bring your Nintendo, Super Nintendo, was it Super NES? You bring that, you bring Bill Walsh football on any team in the country, and you give me 1981 Clemson, and we will beat you down. Don't you bring, 1984 Provo. Don't bring South Bend. Remember, the licensing wouldn't allow them to use the name. They could only use the names of the towns. You can't bring South Bend or College Station or State College against the 1981 Clemson team. That defense flew all around the field. But what's interesting to note is right now, when you talk about Ebo coming on, the possibility of a guy, I'm sticking with it, Kim Dichie, until he says no, and Montravius Adams. And you look at the interior line for Clemson and the way they played against LSU, some guys who went, who came in much like I'd say Adam Humphries, rather, would you say uncelebrated recruits? DJ Reader, Josh Watson, Grady Jarrett. Now, Reader was pretty celebrated because of a two-sport athlete and a big kid. But those guys were stepping up and making plays and disrupting as much as anybody on this Clemson Tiger team throughout the ballgame and stuffing LSU's running attack at the line of scrimmage and many times behind the line of scrimmage. We'll talk about that when we get back. Well, as I mentioned as we headed out to break, we were talking a little bit about recruiting, and more specifically the recruitment of Montravius Adams, or Mount Adams, as many people will call him probably if he does become a Clemson Tiger. February 6th is National Signing Day. Everyone expects Adams' recruitment to carry on until that day. This article came to us from MS Tiger 02. I'll put it in the chat room, at least the link to the post on TigerNet. If you're a member of TigerNet, I'll put that in there for you to read through it if you want to. But William Perry came in and really made a difference at Clemson. And we can talk about, and this article gets into it, Herschel Walker and the impact that he may have had he decided to sign with Clemson. But Terry Kennard said that I think the biggest difference from 1980 to 1981 was the defensive line play. The only really different person was William Perry. I think a lot of our struggles in 1980 were because of a lack of a pass rush, and the front made the biggest difference on our offense. And you could imagine if you get some of the guys that Clemson's still after there on the defensive line. And I think it's become apparent that even after one of the best, the number one recruiting class in college football a couple of seasons ago, the best wide receiver class that Clemson's ever had. And you guys know I don't pound my chest and say, yes, I am the recruiting master. I've never been, probably never will be. I just don't have all the time that is needed to be dedicated to recruiting as much as I wish I had. Now, maybe one day down the road I'll have more time, and my time will be freed up a little bit, and I can get into that a little bit more. But it's pretty obvious from what you're seeing right now from Clemson on the recruiting trail, and that they are really trying to address that need of the pass rush. Because I think has been the biggest impact that you can see is that if there is a pass rush that can get after a quarterback and get them a little bit rattled, what it does is it really makes up for a lack of coverage ability. And on top of that, maybe some of the coverage problems we've seen have been because quarterbacks and, more importantly, wide receivers have had more time to run routes and get open. I mean, that's important. That's tough. It's tough. If you look, you pick the guy who's listening to the program or whoever. If we're playing in the backyard and the quarterback's got all day to just stand back there because there's no rush, eventually you will probably get open. Eventually I will get winded. As physically fit as I may appear, I'm probably going to get winded eventually. And I'm not saying that a quarterback's sitting back there 10 and 15 seconds, but in college football, 6 seconds is a lot of time. 5 and 6 seconds is more than enough time for somebody to get burnt, more than enough time for a safety to get out of position. And that wasn't the problem all season. I know you can technique, guys not getting their heads around, safeties who are biting too hard on play action. Those things occurred. There's no mistaking that fact. But there was a significant lack of a pass rush. Significant lack of a pass rush this year. And Zach Mettenberger, not the best quarterback in the world by any means, but can throw the football very well, but didn't have hardly any time. And the result of that was Clemson was able to disrupt their passing game, get them out of rhythm. And Corey in the chat room throws up Taj Boyd's numbers versus LSU and Johnny Heisman's numbers, Johnny Manziel versus LSU. Taj Boyd goes 36 of 50 for 346 yards, 2 touchdowns, and no picks. He also rushed 29 times for 22 yards and a touchdown. Johnny Manziel's numbers, and if you're watching the show, you can see them there on the screen. Manziel versus LSU, he was 29 of 56 for 276 yards, 3 picks, no touchdowns, 17 carries for 27 yards, and no scores. So Mr. Heisman versus Mr. Boyd against LSU, check mark in the Boyd category for that one. And Boyd was outstanding. Guys, look, I said it earlier, and I'll say it again. Boyd was unbelievable in this game. He kept getting up. Just kept bouncing back and took some hits. And let's say this, too. LSU plays on the edge of dirty. They are right at the edge of being a dirty football team. And you might not like the style. I really didn't. They play not to the start of the whistle. They play through the whistle. They'll hit you out of bounds. They'll target you high. They did have some penalties that hurt them because they were a little bit undisciplined. But I want my team, and I've said it. I said it after what we saw against South Carolina and Swearinger, that hit against Andre Ellington. I want my guys to have a little swag, a little edge, a little grit. I don't want them dirty, but we definitely saw them. We definitely saw them step up their game, and that leaping, the leaping sacks that Malachi Goodman had. I can't stop talking about Malachi Goodman. I haven't talked about him for 4 years on the show. Malachi Goodman showed out. Handzilla showed out. And finally we saw his hand. He was called Handzilla when he was 17 years old. I haven't seen the kid's hands until the biggest play of the game where he bats a ball down. I don't know what'll happen with him as far as professional football. I don't think he showed enough throughout his career for people to really trust and buy into him. But I'll tell you, if he could play like that, if he goes to the combine and he gets in somewhere and shows out a little bit during practice, spring training and everything, if he really shows out, the sky might be the limit. He's got the physical gifts and tools. He's got long arms. That helps you to get off of blockers, to keep them from engaging you. Tremendous. The hands are important, getting his arms up. I was flabbergasted. That's the best way I could put it. Clemson Tom says, hey, he's good, man. I'll tell you what. He didn't show it throughout his career. But in the biggest game in recent memory for Clemson, Malachi Goodman. I can't say your name enough on this program, son. You were outstanding. Stay with us.
I used to sneak downtown with my fake ID and watch Doug McCormick rock TDs on a Friday night.
Blake Austin of South Carolina Farm Bureau is an insurance agent you can count on to meet all your needs. Home, auto, health, life, you name it, Blake's got you covered, and he can save you on your yearly rates. Call him now for a free quote, 803-259-5008. That's 803-259-5008. Or just go to ClemsonSportsTalk.com and click on the Farm Bureau logo to be connected to Blake. Do like I do and work with the best agent around, and you can tweet that.
At TurboTax, we know your paycheck is more than a number.
It's brown bag lunches every day.
It's picking up extra shifts.
And it's catching the bus to work.
You work hard to earn your money, and we want to help you stretch every dollar. That's why TurboTax lets you file your simple federal return for free. It's free to prepare, print, e-file, and you can even chat with a tax expert. TurboTax, the power to keep what's yours. Get the federal free edition at TurboTax.com. Live tax help service is subject to availability, restrictions, and change without notice. See TurboTax.com for details.
This is a referral service. Calls will be routed to an independent referral insurance agency.
Do you know the number one cause of bankruptcy? No, it's not losing your job or running up credit card debt. It's not even divorce. It's medical costs. If you and your family don't have health insurance, just one serious illness or accident could be financially devastating. But now there's good news, really good news. A health insurance hotline has been established to provide health insurance for all Americans, even uninsured Americans with pre-existing conditions. Now anyone can get health insurance even if you have a pre-existing medical condition. I repeat, now anyone can get health insurance coverage. Call now for a free no-obligation quote on affordable health plans available to you. Again, this is a free hotline for anyone, even if you have pre-existing conditions. Protect you and your family from sudden unexpected medical costs. Call the free health insurance hotline right now at 1-800-838-5562. That's 1-800-838-5562. Call 1-800-838-5562.
Are any of these symptoms familiar? Weight gain, hot flashes, rapid heartbeat, night sweats? How about fatigue, nausea, low libido, and fat storage? If you're a woman over 40 experiencing any of these symptoms, you probably have hormonal imbalance. Ambren restores hormonal balance in women over 40, so the extra pounds fall away and the other symptoms simply disappear. To receive a complimentary risk-free trial with a free 30-day supply, just be one of the first callers right now at 1-800-921-9020. That's 1-800-921-9020.
Only about 5 minutes left, and good gracious, do I have a lot to get to. First, I want to address something because maybe some people are confused. I don't know if I said it before. Early enrollees, that's the reason that everybody's so hot to trot right now on DeMarcus Robinson, because Ebenezer Okendeko, Jadar Johnson, and Jordan Leggett are already on campus, expecting Shaq Lawson, the former D.W. Daniel player, to be there if his grades are right. And then finally, of course, DeMarcus Robinson picking between Clemson, Florida, and Notre Dame. And people on TigerNet right now talking about they've got their GPS on him like Santa Claus or whatever, following him around. But I'm telling you, he is a very good wide receiver and one that you'd like to have in the fold if possible. Finally, kind of getting back to that Montravius Adams and having him a part of this program and what that could mean if he were to come to Clemson. And he seems very high on Clemson right now, says that Clemson is doing the best job recruiting him. They were the first to offer him. And I posed this question to TigerNet, and it's not going to get a lot of love from people here, but I've said this all season long, and I felt like this here on the show, that if Clemson had South Carolina's defense or South Carolina had Clemson's defense, those teams probably would have gone undefeated this year. There's no mistaking which was the more powerful side of the football for both programs. Now, I don't think that I don't think South Carolina is close enough to being undefeated and playing for the national championship that we could give them one player, Sammy, Nuke, you name it, Ellington, Boyd, whoever, to get them over the top. But as I kind of have developed an affinity for the athleticism and the player that Jadeveon Clowney is. Look, I don't care. February 14th, 2011, if he picks Clemson, great. I don't know if he can get in or not. People have argued with me on that. But if he's playing for us, are we playing for the national title? We got a 14-point lead at Florida State with Jadeveon Clowney at the defensive end position for Clemson. I think we got it. If we play South Carolina and they don't have him and we do, I think it's a no-brainer. We win that game. So I put it out there on TigerNet and asked some people to give me their thoughts on what they thought. Smed said, S-M-E-D on TigerNet said, Carolina was better at almost every position this year on defense. Maybe we would have had a better chance to beat FSU in South Carolina, but if we made it to the national championship, we'd have gotten pounded. Now, I don't think so. If we're in the national championship against Notre Dame, I don't think we'd get pounded right now if we were playing Notre Dame. This Clemson team, no Jadeveon Clowney. I think Smed missed it there. And obviously I think that Clemson would be right there against the team like Alabama as well. D. Robbins says that he says, yes, a good pass rush makes everything better. As our defensive tackles grew up, they all began to play very well and get pressure from the inside. Beasley really became to be a threat off the edge, and he's not an everyday defensive end. If Clowney came to us, then teams wouldn't be able to have their quarterback sit back nice and pretty and burn our secondary. A great D-line is a secondary's best friend. Tiger Swag said, undefeated, yes. I could get into all the people that wrote me. Some people said I was wrong. I'd love to know what you think about it, though. So email us this week if you get a minute, if you're listening to the show, riding down the highways and byways of the great state of South Carolina. Clemson81@gmail.com. Give us your thoughts. One kid. Is Clemson potentially one kid away from being in the national championship game this season? It seems crazy. It might ruffle some feathers. It might make some Gamecock fans say, hey, man, he's really reaching here. But I'll tell you, I think the possibility really exists based on the schedule that Clemson plays each and every season, that if we could get some of these stud players, and this is why it's an important question to ask, if we can get some of these stud defensive players this season, right now, coming in the next recruiting class, February 6th could be a mighty big day for Clemson Tiger football in a year or so. The 2012 season is in the book. We're not even going to talk about Clemson basketball. The loss to Florida State was so disappointing. We're going to leave that one. We're going to leave that one for Wednesday night's TigerNet Talk. We'll talk about that, I guess. We'll put that on hold. But the question remains, is Clemson that close, people? We know we've had a couple of great runs, a 10-win season, an 11-win season, 21 wins the past 2 years. But how close are we? And were we when it was down to Clemson and South Carolina for Jadeveon Clowney that close to maybe being a national championship team or playing in the national championship game this year? And for most of you, 2013, at the beginning of this year, was the year you were looking forward to. And I'm looking forward to the rest of this Clemson Hotline season with you all, heading up into the summer. And until next time, y'all take care now. And as always, go Tigers!